Hey guys, Rogan from Rogue's Guitar School here. I want to talk about a universal problem that I see, and it's a very frustrating problem. I'm going to show you how to overcome it. Every beginner has buzzing chords. I'm not saying all of your chords are going to be buzzing. Obviously some chords are easier to play than others, but certain chords might buzz and they will be buzzing for different reasons. So a couple of things you should know: it's not your guitar's fault, and it's definitely not your finger's fault. I've had students ask, are my fingers too short, my fingers too thick, are my hands too small? That's typically not the issue. I'm going to say that it's technique. So I'll show you the 3 common reasons that I find with students and why their chords buzz, and I'll also teach you how to fix it really easily. Reason number 1 is that you're not pressing hard enough. Obviously, as you start out, your fingers still need to build up the strength, and this takes time. That'll take a few weeks of constant playing as you're playing through chords, as you're doing various exercises, those kind of things. That's how you're going to build finger strength up. Additionally, your fingertips also hurt at first, so the more you play, the less it's going to hurt, but also at the start, the more you play, the more it's going to hurt in the moment. So the more your fingertips hurt right now, the less you're going to want to press hard down on the strings, and the less you're actually going to be able to do it, because obviously it hurts. So I'll teach you how to find the optimal pressure here when pressing down on the strings. So what you want to do is you want to fret the note down as hard as you can. You squeeze it really hard, and then you start lightening up on that pressure until you hit the point where it buzzes, and then you know to press a little bit harder. So what you're doing is you're starting at an extreme by pressing really hard. You're slowly relieving the pressure, slowly relieving it, until you reach a point that's gone too far. Now it starts to buzz, and you know that, okay, if I move back a little bit to there, I'm back at the sweet spot. So that's how you're going to figure out the optimal pressure for how hard you need to push down. But that pressure will also get easier in the way that we correct mistake 2. So mistake 2 is that your fingers are positioned too far back from the fret. So just to clarify, if we talk about forward in the fret, we are talking about this direction. And if we're talking backwards, we are talking that direction. So I'm going to play a note in the back of the fret, and I'll play it then in the front of the fret, and you'll immediately be able to tell the difference in how the note sounds. So here's in the back of the fret. I'll move that to the front of the fret, and you can immediately hear the difference in that note. So you want to be right next to the fret, or as close to it as you possibly can be. That's something that you should keep in mind, but it's not a golden rule. And the reason I say it's not a golden rule is because certain chords that you're going to be playing, like for instance the A chord, where you're stacking multiple fingers into one fret, it's kind of impossible, or very uncomfortable at least, to get your middle finger forward in the fret as well. Because in order for all 3 of my fingers to be forward in the fret, I need to create this super unnatural position. So it's not a golden rule to be right next to the fret, but the closer you are to the front of the fret, the less pressure you're going to need, and the more consistent the clean sound is actually going to be. You do have quite a large sweet spot, I would say, and that is going to be till about halfway back in the fret. So whether I'm pushing right up against the fret wire or in the middle of the fret, I'm still going to be getting a clean note out. So that's something to bear in mind as you're practicing, to try to be as far forward into the fret as you possibly can be, but to know that it's not a golden rule to be right up against the fret. Now, don't overcorrect that mistake as well and go and put your finger on top of the fret. That's not what you want. That's going to be very inconsistent. You want to be inside of the fret, between the 2 fret wires, as far forward into the fret as you can be. And then reason number 3 that I see is that while you're playing chords, some of your fingers may not be positioned correctly, and as a result there are killing strings or deadening strings. So take a G chord like that, for example. You can see that these 2 fingers are laying flat. So if I play the chord, it's not obvious that it's wrong, right? It still sounds alright. But if I play individually through the strings, you're going to hear what the issue really is. Here we go. So you can hear that I'm killing notes as I'm strumming through. So the best way to understand how to strum that, or the best way to understand how to finger that, is to realize that you need to be using the very, very tip of your finger, not the flat part at the front. So when you use the tip of your finger, you already automatically correct what you are doing wrong. So I'm going to turn like this so that you can have a visual example. But if I go ahead and I place my fingers down on the very tips, you'll see what happens here. What's happening is that my finger comes straight off the fretboard and then it bends here at the first joint. So immediately I am giving myself room around the other strings by positioning my fingers in that way. So now when I play the chord, you will hear that sounds much cleaner. Here we go. You can hear that I'm getting all 6 strings out of that. There we go. So very, very simply, just use the tips of your fingers there and make sure that you're bending past the first joint. You're going to come off the fretboard straight, and then the bend will happen at the first joint. If it's difficult for now to reach certain strings and you feel like you really need to stretch your hand up, I would recommend just adjusting your thumb position at the back and then seeing how much you can lift your wrist without your thumb poking over the top like that. So with my wrist bent very, very awkwardly like this, I as well feel like I need to stretch my fingers to reach the top strings. But as I bring my wrist in, automatically my finger position adjusts, and now with a straight wrist like that, my finger position has adjusted to a point where it doesn't feel like a massive stretch anymore. So the best way to exercise and to practice getting clean chords out of your guitar is very, very simple, and it doesn't take very long. I will warn you immediately that this is very, very tiring and tedious to do, but it takes a couple of weeks. It takes a couple of weeks of dedicated practice and deliberate understanding of what you are doing. And as I say to my students, you need to focus on the really tedious things right now, because if you spend 2 weeks at the start of your journey ironing out the tedious problems in chords, you never have to think about it again. And just understand that a lot of practicing the guitar, not necessarily playing the guitar, but practicing the guitar is not going to be fun. And the intention of practice is not to be fun, it's to make the guitar playing more fun. Obviously, it's going to be more fun if you are suddenly, able to play your chords, and that's why practice comes in. So we practice in order to have fun. So the exercise is very, very simple. You'll play your chord, you'll fret it down, we're going to take the G chord, and we'll do exactly what I just did. We will slowly play through each string. And then if you hear a problem, let's say for example this inside of your chord, you will go through the reasons that I've listed. Either reason 1, you're not pressing hard enough. Reason 2, you're too far from the fret. Or reason 3, your fingers are muting open strings. And in that way, you will identify what is wrong with your chord and slowly go through it using the 3 reasons I listed to figure out what the problem is and to correct it. So that is what we mean when we say deliberate and focused practice. We're focusing and we're being deliberate about the very nuanced details of what we're doing, so that as we're learning, we learn things properly. What a lot of students do, and I understand this logic, is that they would learn their chords without focusing on cleaning them up, and they would learn a couple of chords and they would start jamming songs, and that's a lot of fun. That's a great thing to do, but at the same time, we also want to spend that little bit of tedious time fixing up our chords. I understand that students don't want to do the tedious things, but it's important that we do go through them now, especially if we're going to be building up muscle memory, and we build up incorrect muscle memory that is so difficult to correct later down the line, because we start doing things without thinking about them, and when we're doing things improperly without thinking about them, it takes much more focus to actually correct those issues. So those are the reasons why these things happen, and those are the easy fixes. It's very simple to do, and it shouldn't take you a lot of time. Thanks for watching.